So we just finished, Hakeem and I finished meeting with the president and the two Republican leaders. We had candid, frank discussions. It was a real discussion. And the two issues that we focused on were, number one, health care. The American people are hurting in their health care. The American people, we're seeing hospitals close. We're seeing people laid off. We're seeing people not being able to get the health care they need. And the American people are crying out for some help. It is our job as legislative leaders to try and solve this problem, or at least fix the problem. And we focused in the room in particular on the ACA and its extension. And the other issue that was sharply drawn were rescissions, impoundments, and pocket rescissions, where we made the point clear that how could we negotiate a bipartisan agreement and then have the president unilaterally through impoundment, or the Republican Party through rescissions, and the president unilaterally through pocket rescissions, undo it all without any input. So we made these arguments very strongly, and the particular focus was on health care. When we made these arguments, it was clear there was a division, or possible division, between the president and the two Republican leaders. The Republican leaders were adamant that they do nothing on rescission, and they just wanted to kick the health care problem down the road. Well, they've been kicking it down the road since March. And in fact, I made the point clear to the president and to the legislative leaders, as did Leader Jeffries, that this meeting should have occurred much earlier, but it didn't. But there was a real division, because when we talked to the president about the problems in health care, I mentioned to him a woman I had met who was crying because she said her daughter's losing her health care. Her daughter has cancer. She doesn't want to sit there and watch her daughter suffer and even die. And when we talked to him about the other issues, he was not aware that Americans would pay, so many Americans, tens of millions of Americans, would pay huge increases in their health care, bills because of the ACA expiring in December. And he was not aware that the real effect of that starts October 1st, not December 31st. So it seemed from his body language and some of the things he said that he was not aware of the ramifications of the detritus, the bad implications on health care for Americans, nor the argument about rescissions. So how do we solve this problem? Well, we told the president he can solve the problem by demanding of the legislative leaders, of Thune and of Johnson, that we'd start off with the ACA, just take our provision on the ACA and put it in their bill, and take our provisions, it's all in our bill, so it doesn't have to be legislatively changed or gone over, on rescissions and on impoundment and on pocket rescissions, and add it to their bill, and we could avoid a shutdown. But it's in the president's hands whether to avoid a shutdown or not. He has to convince the Republican leaders. Now we know why they didn't want him to meet with us. But finally they did, because their view is take this partisan bill. They call it a clean bill. Clean equals partisan. And I reminded the Republican leaders, that when we were in the majority, we always negotiated these bills. And that's why there were no shutdowns in the 4 years I was majority leader. We negotiated the bills. Each side got something. They had some input. We've had no input. Leader Jeffries had no input from Johnson. I had no input from Thune. And they say, well, the appropriators talked. They did talk on 3 bills. We're glad about that. But on the issues of health care and on rescissions, the appropriators, the 4 appropriators, said they can't resolve it, kick it up to the 4 corners. But it's now in the president's hands. He can avoid a shutdown if he gets the Republican leaders to go along with what we want. And if they don't, the American people are going to know they had a partisan bill that the president's in charge, and he admitted in the room, I said, you know, the president gets the blame for this stuff. He admitted that. And that health care, the American people want us to do just what we're doing. Hakeem.
Thank you, Chuck. Republicans control the House, Republicans control the Senate, and Donald Trump is the president. If the government shuts down, it's because Republicans have decided to shut the government down and hurt the American people. And that's a point that we made loudly and clearly in that meeting. It was a frank and sharp discussion about the path forward. We made clear that we are ready, willing, and able over these next 36 or so hours to find a bipartisan path forward to fund the government and avoid a shutdown. But any agreement must be bipartisan in nature, and it's got to meet the needs of the American people in terms of their health, safety, and economic well-being. Any spending agreement that by necessity has to be bipartisan nature, has to actually improve the quality of life of the American people, particularly as it relates to the Republican-caused health care crisis. There is urgency to the moment because Republicans are decimating the health care of the American people. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history as part of the One Big Ugly Bill. Medicare confronts a $536 billion cut if Congress fails to act at the end of this year. The Affordable Care Act tax credits, and much of our discussion was focused on this issue because of the immediate urgency of the fact that in just a matter of days, which we continue to point out, tens of millions of Americans are going to confront the reality that their health care, premiums, copays, deductibles, and costs are about to skyrocket out of control because of Republicans' refusal to extend the tax credits in ways that would benefit working class Americans. We also made clear in the meeting that any bipartisan agreement by necessity has to have something in the legislation that makes clear to the American people that what we agree upon actually takes place. If there's a bipartisan agreement to meet the needs of the American people, it can't be subject to Republicans then undermining that agreement in ways that actually hurt everyday Americans. We pointed out that as a result of the Republican One Big Ugly Bill, hospitals are closing, nursing homes are closing, community-based health clinics are closing right now, all across the country, including in rural America. And there's an urgency to dealing with that issue right now. And so it was a frank discussion. It's important that it occurred, and Democrats remain ready, willing, and able to find a bipartisan path forward, address the Republican health care crisis, and avoid a Republican-caused government shutdown.
Questions? Yes.
Wouldn't it be worse to send this country into a prolonged government shutdown than to spend 7 weeks negotiating a possible compromise on health care?
Ask the Republicans. They're the ones causing this. Yes.
Republicans say that they want the clean CR to buy time to negotiate over the enhanced premium tax credits, etc. Are you worried that when people give their notices that their premiums are going up in October, that they will decide not to buy insurance, and even if you do fix it by the end of the year, they won't?
Yes. That's the reason, you know, some of the Republican leaders said, let's wait till January or late December. You hit the reason. They can't. On October 1st, they get these notices, and many of them by November have to make a decision whether to change their health care. If you're a person, middle-class person. And you're going to hear that the premiums are going to go up $400 a month. That's the average in the country, $5,000 a year. You may say, either I can't afford health care and drop it, or more likely take a less generous plan where you pay much more for co-payments, deductibles, and everything else. So you can't wait till January. You have to do that now.
Let me address this issue.
Go ahead, please.
Donald Trump promised that costs were going to go down on day one. But costs aren't going down in the United States of America. Costs are going up. Inflation is going up. America is too expensive. And Democrats are fighting to address the Affordable Care Act issue and the Republican health care crisis because we believe that we need to make this country more affordable. And the reality is that in a matter of days, notices are going to go out to tens of millions of Americans making clear that their health care is about to become dramatically more expensive in ways that will actually cause medical bankruptcy for many, or some to have to forego necessary health care. And that's not an acceptable thing in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And we pointed that out consistently. This is a health care fight, but it's also a fight to lower the high cost of living here in the United States of America.
Leader Schumer, on the ACA subsidies, are you saying that that has to be included in this CR or no deal, or are you willing to accept, pass this CR as is, and then have a separate?
They say give us 45 days. We've had, since March, we've had 45 days and 45 days and 45 days and 45 days. We asked to meet earlier, they didn't want to. So we think when they say later, they mean never. We have to do it now, first because of the timing issue, and second because now is the time we can get it done. Sahil.
On the policy front with ACA, Leader Thune has said the only way these will get extended is if there are new reforms and restrictions on where that money can go. Is that an acceptable premise?
We said to him, renew it so that people aren't hurt, and then we can discuss what other reforms you want. But you got to renew it now. Yes.
Now that you've presented these issues directly to the president, would you propose or would you support a 7 to 10 day CR?
No.
So there's more time.
No, we have to do it now. The time is a wasting. We have to do it now. We've delayed and delayed and delayed. As I said, as Martin Luther King once said, later means never. They don't want to do this, the Republican leaders, because they're right-wing. It'll divide their party. Their right-wing hates ACA altogether. But we have to get it done. And the president, the way to do this is the president, who is really listening to us, tells the Republicans to do it.
Let me make a point about timing.
Yeah.
House Democrats are here. Senate Democrats are here. The Senate is ready to act. House Republicans cancel votes. They're on vacation right now all across the country, and some are spread out across the world. They're not serious about actually reaching a bipartisan agreement that meets the needs of the American people. If House Republicans were serious, they'd be here right now. And there was no explanation in that meeting from the Speaker of the House of Representatives as to how possibly votes could be canceled. And at the same time, people are supposed to believe that Republicans are serious about addressing the health care crisis that they've caused, but simply want to kick the can down the road and expect us to take a Hail Mary promise. That's unreasonable, that's unacceptable, and it's divorced from reality.
If you ever wanted proof that Republicans want to shut down because they're afraid of this vote, look at when the Speaker scheduled the House to come back in after a shutdown.
Thank you.
Thank you.